An expert on the Iranian peace agreement. I can't cover all the bases, but I've followed it in the news. I know that the Iranians have been in negotiation with the Europeans and the Americans about hopefully preventing them from developing nuclear weapons. Now it's kind of ironic, of course, because Israel, which is adamant to killing this agreement, has more nuclear weapons than anybody in the Middle East. All of them are basically removed from public sight. They've not signed the non-proliferation treaty which is hopefully still in existence, but some question. But apparently the talks were successful, and an agreement has been reached among the negotiators, which now has to be affirmed by the governing bodies in Iran and in the United States. And as you know, we're in an election season. It's hell to ignore it. And we're confronting basically the Republicans using this, and there's Democrats too that are, the neoliberal types that want any kind of military thing to go forward, and they oppose the treaty. So what we are in attempting to do, and I am not the lead person on this, is to communicate with our congressional representatives to have them oppose any legislation that would destroy this treaty. I want to see that treaty. I want my children to live, your children to live. I don't want to see this world continue to go down into this endless abyss that we're in now, where it's just constantly military conflict, regardless. For 10 years, I've been participating in a peace vigil in Estacada. I go stand on a street corner in this conservative community out where I live, and I have my signs, communicating, that we need to stop endless war. This is the time. This is really the time. And so that's as much as I can tell you. It's not difficult to find people who are communicating their effort to organize around this issue. I assume that Veterans for Peace is organizing around this issue, and so we're in a good place. Yes?
I was just going to say that we lived for almost 20 years in Iran, both before and after the revolution, and have many friends there.
She says that she has lived in Iran both before and after the revolution.
Yeah, for close to 20 years, and Persian is my second language. So if anybody has questions, I'm happy to be available also.
This person right here is somebody that you want to talk to about this.
And
Yes,
That's not a
Catherine.
Persian name. I have another Persian name.
Yeah, Lloyd. As you well know, once again we have a campaign finance reform initiative out, and sadly, once again, the unions are opposing it, and they've had to withdraw that one and starting to revise it.
This is the petition that is localized to Multnomah County, correct?
Yes. And as you well know, because we've been involved in going to those meetings for years, we got initiative out in '96. Dan Meek wrote it, and I think Greg contributed, but it just held the corporations and people responsible, turned it into the Secretary of State for approval, and the Secretary of State, I forgot who it was at the time, came back and that was discriminatory.
It wasn't me, I can tell you that, though I did try and run.
That wasn't until later, about 2002
I'm teasing,
or
I'm
3.
teasing.
And anyway, the Attorney General at that time returned the verdict that it was discriminatory because you had to treat unions and corporations equally. So then Dan revised it, and once again, and fast forward to now. So I just encourage all you people, I've been a union supporter since I've been a young teenager, never belonged to any union, but that they need to understand the reason why the corporations unions are treated the same way. And until we get campaign finance reform, we'll get these same people in Congress, president. There's few peace candidates that ever make the ballot. Usually it's in the primary, and they don't go on from there. So anyway, you speak about it, please.
Thanks, Catherine. Catherine is correct. Do you have copies of the petition with you?
No, I don't.
Okay, the person to talk to is David Delk of Alliance for Democracy. I think he is spearheading this campaign, and I encourage you to get a hold of him. Yes?
Yes, I have a question. How do you deal with the so-called liberals in the Democratic Party? I stand, by the way, I worked with you on campaign finance reform years ago. My name's Will Poole, and I stand on the vigils out at Sandy. And I'm thinking particularly of one liberal, but a number of others. They refuse to take any responsibility for the backing of the military-industrial complex by the Democratic Party, its hanger-ons and so on, particularly in instances, for an example, like the Ukraine shipment of heavy weapons onto Russia's front door stoop. Instead, they blame it all on Putin being so stupid and so on. How do you deal with these people who are traditional lifetime Democrats and refuse to take any responsibility?
I think that dealing with liberals is like missionary work. My grandfathers were Presbyterian ministers, and one thing that I never forgot about my father's father was that even when he was in a wheelchair and couldn't get around and I was pushing him down the street, whenever he confronted the Baptists and the Catholics and whatnot, he was always talking to them about coming over to the right side. That's what I think we have to do with liberals. I mean, we've got to point out the connections, literally. So,
One more question.
one more question? Okay.
I was just, do you think that Pope Francis will have any effect at all on Congress?
I'll tell you this much, Pope Francis has had an effect on me. So I'm not a Catholic and never have been, but I gotta say, this is the first time I've ever seen a Pope that's acting like a Pope. You know what I mean? I mean, he's got, and the thing that impresses me about him is not only does he have a love for people, he's got a love for the earth. And the earth has been trashed on. You know, we've been doing our little dances on top of the earth. Think of all the carbon that going into the atmosphere, running all the military machinery in this country and other countries that we don't belong in. I mean, it's just amazing when you think about it. You know, and he's right. You link these issues together. That's the key. You link them together. You know, when we're talking about climate change, we're talking about economic justice. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about exploitation. Exploitation brought us to where we are today. The time for justice has arrived across the board for everything that's living on the planet.
Amen.
Anyway, take all the stuff you want. Thank you for